Wow, I'm so excited about these dupes. So let's just jump straight in. The first one that I have is actually a dupe of a drugstore product. So this is already relatively affordable. This is the NYX Thick It, Stick It Thickening Brow Mascara. This, it depends where you find it, but it retails anywhere between $12 and $15. But I have a pretty spot on dupe for $5. So this is the Essence Thick and Wow, and this was kind of a funny discovery because I did this backwards. First I bought this, I had this, I fell in love with it, and then I tried the NYX one and I'm like, okay, yeah, they definitely were aiming to dupe this. And you can see it in the packaging as well, and even in the name. You know, we've got Thick It, Stick It, and Thick and Wow. But it is a funny time when we have drugstore duping drugstore, but this is pretty pricey for being drugstore. Anyways, I have the NYX one in my eyebrows currently. I really like this formula overall, regardless of which brand you go from. I think they're pretty spot on either way. They both offer a nice tint and pigment to the brows and a pretty nice hold as well. I have, and I always say this, I have fine eyebrows. My hair is very fine, like the hair on my head is fine, the hair on my eyebrows is also fine. So the brow gels that I tend to like are ones that give me a soft hold without being too heavy. I actually find a lot of the more like industrial strength brow gels that everyone seems to love rarely work for my brows because they weigh them down and they actually fall down. So if you have much thicker eyebrow hairs than I do, maybe you won't enjoy the hold from this because it works for my more fine eyebrows. Anyways, I love the tint that this gives, especially as someone who has basically translucent eyebrows. I think this just goes in, grips onto each one, adds a little bit of pigment and color. So I tend to wear these sometimes just completely on their own. If I'm just like running out the door and I don't want to do much, but I don't want to look like I don't have eyebrows, I'll just run a little bit of one of these two through them. Or I'll kind of use this as a step one to start mapping out the brow, and then I'll go in with the brow pencil to start adding some actual shape to them. So I love either of these, but if you want to save half or sometimes more, depending on how much you're finding this for, check out the option from Essence. Okay, fragrances. I am so excited about this. This was the product that inspired the video because I'm like, we have to talk about this. I want to shout from the rooftops that I have a spot on dupe to Fleur's Missing Person. I love Fleur Missing Person. I'll pop the notes on the screen in case you're not familiar with this perfume, but I do feel like this is such a cult favorite fragrance, and the dupe is so good. So this comes from Finery, and the dupe is called Without a Trace. These smell basically identical, but the Finery one, in my opinion, has better wear and better projection. Fleur Missing Person is definitely more of like a skin scent on me. I feel like you almost don't notice it unless you're giving someone a hug. You know what I mean? It's not a fragrance that is like shouting from the rooftops. It's not super, I was gonna say smellable. I guess I'm still gonna say smellable. Just go with it. Smellable. You're not hit with it right away. But I think Without a Trace has so much more projection. So if you have found that you like the scent, but you're like, it's not enough, try this. This entire line in general is such a favorite for me. When they first launched at Target, was it 1 year ago or 2 years ago? I mentioned the entire brand in like a drugstore favorites of the year, but these are some of their new ones and I figured I'd just run them down them. This is not sponsored. I wish it was, but I was at a Finery event maybe a week or two ago, so I went home with some fragrances and I was on a mission. I got home and I'm like, okay, which one of these are dupes so I can share them with you? So this is the first dupe. Stellar dupe. Also, out of their new stuff, they launched Pistachio Please. Well, it's not like brand new, but go with it. So immediately I'm like, oh, this is probably a dupe for Yum Pistachio, which I have in the more mini tube. The first time I sniffed this, I was like, okay, that's actually nothing like Yum Pistachio. And I think with the color of the bottle and the name, it seems like that's where they're trying to go with this, but no. You know what this is duping? It is the original Sol de Janeiro scent. So the scent of like the original Boom Boom Cream, or like the body sprays. I don't have the number 62, which is the one that this dupes. I don't have 62 in the body spray, but they make it in a body spray. They make it in a perfume. This is the exact same scent. And Finery has all the scents both in like the perfume or the body mist. So if you wanted to dupe the Sol de Janeiro body mist, Finery has that exact same scent. And at first I was like, okay, it's not that much cheaper because the Sol de Janeiro is $24 for the smaller size body spray, and then the Finery is $15 for the body spray. Well, it actually depends where you're at. It ranges from like 12 to 15 depending on where you live. But anyways, the difference is that the Finery bottles are way larger. So this is 5 fluid ounces, whereas the Sol de Janeiro is only 3 fluid ounces. Even though they look identical, it's all in the cap. These aren't even that big. It's all in the cap. So way better value. If you love that scent, check out Pistachio Please. Also, for good measure, I would throw it in here. I have been loving the Sweet on the Outside one. This, I've heard is supposed to do Billie Eilish Original, which I don't own, but I will tell you I'm obsessed with this. It smells delicious and I've been wearing it constantly. One of my longtime favorite sunscreens has been the Unseen from Supergoop. This one is fantastic because you don't get any cast. It is completely clear, and the texture of this is like a makeup primer. Like, it has that silicone-y slip to it, similar to the original Smashbox primer that we were all so obsessed with. So it just goes on in a way that allows the foundation over top of it to blend out seamlessly, flawlessly, perfectly every single time. Like, it's such a good sunscreen slash primer hybrid type of product. But it is $38 for this size. And I have found a spot-on dupe from Sunbum. I was gonna say Bum Bum because I'm still thinking of the Boom Boom cream. This is from Sunbum. This is the Daily Gel Moisturizer Broad Spectrum SPF 50, which I already like more because this is SPF 50, but the Unseen is only SPF 40. The Sunbum is 2145, though I have heard, everyone's been telling me, I just threw that at myself. Okay, but everyone has been telling me to try the Trader Joe's one. It is on my list. I'm so curious about that. I know it's supposed to be similar and even less than this, but these two, pretty spot on. I would say, if anything, I find the Sunbum version to be a little bit more moisturizing. I would say it almost has this glow to it, whereas the Supergoop can be a little bit more mattifying, but overall, like, the texture and the look on the skin is pretty identical. Which reminds me, while we're talking about it, I thought I would throw in just an extra review. This is not a dupe. This is like kind of related and it's not cheaper, but I thought you would want to know. Okay, so this is the new Glow Recipe sunscreen and it reminds me of these. So that's why I thought, let me throw it in here now. This is a sunscreen version, that's supposed to be a sunscreen version of the Dewdrops. They've been doing Dewdrop everything, but this is in a stick. And I will say my expectations were on the floor because if you remember, I hated the original sunscreen version they tried to do of the Dewdrops. It just pilled and sat so bad on my skin. It was like so bad. This works. And the reason I wanted to just throw these thoughts in here is because the finish that I get on the skin from this reminds me of these, where you have a little bit of that dewy balm, like the glow, kind of like the Dewdrops would give you, but mostly it is this like slippy, smoothed out finish that makeup sits so well on top of. So not a cheaper dupe by any means, but something I wanted to throw out there in case you like this type of look. This is another product for that, but slightly more glow. Now, not everything today is a perfectly spot-on dupe, but I still always like to share alternatives because I feel like a lot of times, even if it is not exactly identical, it's still gonna save you some money. You're gonna get a pretty spot-on look. So here are some alternatives also. And first, I have to share thoughts on these. So these are new from Catrice. These are called the Melt and Shine Juicy Lip Balms. And clearly this is supposed to be the answer to these right here. The ever popular Click Up lip balms. We've got the viral ones from Hourglass and the viral ones from Tarte. Catrice has launched their version, but we also have the NYX version. I've got the flower version. e.l.f. has a version and ColourPop just launched a version. And I feel like bit by bit, I've been collecting them all, doing a little showdown, giving you updated thoughts. So today, here are the updated thoughts on the Catrice ones. I actually think these are the least dupey, but I think depending on the person, you might prefer these because they're so much more sheer. Like, you almost have to layer it up to get the pigment to shine, and they're not as reflective, but they're not as thick. So if you have found that these are like too much, giving you like a globby mess on the lips, I think you would really like the Catrice ones as an alternative while still being in this family of like shiny, hydrated, clicky lip balm products. I would say they're closest to the Flower Beauty ones. Like, all of these have a lower level of pigment to them and less of that reflective shine, but more of like a nourished, hydrated, balmy look on the lips. For good measure, I did swatch all of these formulas next to one another so we could get the comparison. Obviously the shades are pretty different, but at least this shows the pigmentation there, the reflection, the thickness of them, because some are definitely more like thick and globby. I find that to be the case with the Tarte. I also think the NYX can get a little bit thick. Not necessarily a bad thing, just very much preference based. The pigment level does kind of vary on the Catrice though, because some have a lot more color payoff and some are a little bit more sheer, so it depends on the shade. These click up lip pens are taking over the world, so I'm here to do the comparisons. You can decide which formula is probably best for you, but the Catrice ones are by far the most affordable. All the other drugstore ones are more like $10, $12, and these are literally half. I think in general, Catrice is just really underrated. I feel like their products fly so much under the radar. They're a sister brand to Essence, but so many of their products are like right around the same price point of Essence. Nothing is really over $10, I don't think. Speaking of Essence, okay, I have some thoughts on the Rare Beauty blushes that the internet is obsessed with. My first thought is that I just didn't end up loving this formula as much as I wanted to, actually. And I've mentioned that a little bit, but these are basically highlighter blush hybrids. That's what the brand says, but I think of them almost more as blush toned highlights because they have a lot of sheen to them, very similar to a highlight, but it is this baked formula, so it still sits somewhat smooth on the skin, but not as smooth as I want it. So my alternative here, I like better. This is the Essence Baked Blush formula. This is like the blush version of their highlighters. Kind of funny because Essence technically did it first. They had their viral baked highlighters that they then turned into blushes the same way that Rare Beauty had their popular baked highlights that they turned into blushes. I'm not saying they copied each other. I'm just saying it's funny. Essence really did do it first. And I like the Essence ones more. Not only are they significantly less expensive at only $6, but they're not as shiny. Like the Rare Beauty ones, it's just too highlightery for my preference, whereas this option from Essence I think still gives you the glow without being too much. Like it's not emphasizing texture as much. This is what I have on my cheeks today, and I think it just looks really pretty and radiant. It's still glowy, but it's not so shiny where all your pores are emphasized. It's not so shiny where it looks like you've got your highlighter in the wrong spot. Like it's just a really beautiful alternative. Also, the Milani one is similar, but what I really wanted to mention here is any highlight that you have that is a pink tone will give a pretty similar effect to the Rare Beauty ones. I've been trying this out. I've been trying to take some of my more pink tone highlights and use them like a blush the same way I've been reaching for the Rare Beauty blush, and they're all giving a similar look. So I wanted to mention that. The two I've been using for this are not dupes, okay? Because they're like the same price or more. But if you have something in your collection, you can kind of shop your stash to get that same type of look. So for me, it was the Miss Uranus highlighter from Ariana Grande. This is not so pink, but in the swatches, like it actually ends up looking like a pretty similar look where you get that blush topper type of look or a slightly less pigmented but glowy pinky highlight cheek look. So this has been great for it. Again, I'm not calling this a dupe. I'm not saying go out and buy this instead because it's not cheaper. But if you have this, you can recreate it. Similar vibes. Same for this new one from Fenty. This is Too Much. This is shade number 3 out of their highlights. This is actually considerably more expensive than the Rare Beauty one. So not a dupe, not saying this is a dupe. But if you have this, it will give a similar look. Like when you see the swatches there, they're all giving that shiny, shimmery cheek, half blush, half highlighter, hybrid type of look. And I just feel like it can be so easily duped. So if you don't have anything like this in your collection, I would definitely recommend the Essence or even the Milani, the Milani Baked Blushes, similar vibes. But if you have a pinky highlighter already, I've been taking these and layering it over whatever blush I'm wearing already and getting that look. So today I have a couple blushes on. First, I did a Rare Beauty liquid blush in Bliss on the bottom. Then I took mostly the Essence one and you saw the video of that. But then at the end I was like, for fun, let me throw in a little bit of Too Much. So I did just a tiny bit of this. Like I took it on my blush brush and just tapped it over the top to get this like hybrid cheek effect. And I really love the way that it turned out. Also under alternatives, the new lip liners from Kosas. You know I didn't really love these. These are twist up retractable lip liners. And I mentioned in my review that I find this to be a little bit too creamy, to the point where I don't get the precision necessarily that I'm looking for, but it is very moisturizing and hydrating. So that's the trade-off. I mentioned in my review, you know, I can leave a link down below. It was in a speed reviews, but I feel like it kind of depends on your preference. But the dupes that I have, I like way more. And I included two because I know one of these brands is a little bit harder to get your hands on, but I find these both similar. So two drugstore retractable twist up lip liner formulas that wear well and feel hydrating on the lips, kind of like the Kosas ones, but aren't quite as creamy, but in a good way in my opinion. The KELLYG retractable lip liners and the Essence 8-hour matte lip liners. So the KELLYG ones, if you remember, if you've been around my channel for years now, you probably remember my love affair with these. I feel like these days I'm more into a wooden pencil lip liner. But when it comes to a retractable lip liner, this formula is still phenomenal. It's creamy, it's matte, but not a flat drying matte. It looks really nice on the lips, but it stays in place. I also find the Essence ones to be a pretty similar formula, but slightly more creamy than the KELLYG ones. The KELLYG one, it's not stiff, but it's not as like, it's not gonna glide across the lips as well. No, that makes it sound bad. I don't like my lip liner to be too creamy. I want it to be precise, and I feel like it can't be too emollient for that, and that's what I like about these. That's what I didn't necessarily like about this one. Now, the KELLYG ones, you can find this at certain drugstores. I know Rite Aid, sometimes Sally's. I've seen it there. Sally's not a drugstore, but you know what I mean. Otherwise, if you're shopping on their website, I do have an affiliate code. It's KELLY25 if you want to get 25% off. Or Essence, I know for a lot of people is a little bit more accessible to find, so I thought I would mention both. I like these two way better than I like the new ones from Kosas. I hope I saved you a little bit of money today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will go ahead and see you in my next one. Bye.